Hey everyone, just doing a quick video going over some of the new strategies in the CCSkip route for tackling Demon's Gate, which is a pretty common hurdle for people learning and attempting to do runs. So I thought I might just go over the strategies that I take going into the fight. So before we get started, obviously, initially I'll just go over the two UI addresses at the top of the window here. The first one you see is enemy 1 HP. This is just going to be Demon's Gate HP during the fight that you can see during Cheat Engine, and his ATB value to show how to ATB weight in the fight. He starts off at 10,000 HP, and his ATB, when it is full, you'll see the value 65,535. So when you see that number, that means his ATB is full and his turn is in the queue to be executed. It doesn't mean that his turn will necessarily go next in case someone is queued before him, but that just tells you that he is going to do a turn eventually. So that just goes over the stuff at the top of the screen. But other than that, going into the actual run, after Red Dragon, I'm pretty sure all the routes that people have done, you'll see a menu to prepare. I do my own menu, so this might be a bit different to yours, but essentially it usually looks something like that, where you put Kate into Fury status and Ethereum up, heal up with potions, Trank Cloud and Phoenix Aerith, and the equipment may change in the route that you're looking at, but it's essentially thing. I do take Bahamut into this fight. I know it's an optional note in RJ's things. I just do it for one, it's kind of like an emergency backup strat in some scenarios, which I'll go into a little bit later. But you also need to have Bahamut equipped later, and it doesn't change your stats compared to having Elemental Ifrit on Cloud, because I'll just show there's no minus strength penalty on Bahamut compared to Ifrit. The only difference is that you get 1 bonus magic defense, which makes absolutely no difference for this fight, but hell, why not? That, and I'm pretty sure magic defense doesn't work in this game anyway. So yeah, after you've done that menu, actually before we go into the menu, if you are starting out and you want to do like a kind of easier method, you can take a full heal from this guy where you save. It does have the benefit of not having to use items to heal up your HP and MP. The downside is that Aerith will start the fight at full HP, so it might be a little bit harder to kill her off. You'll need a Molotov and a grenade if she doesn't get focused, but that's it. I mean, here she's got 390 HP. She'll die to pretty much anything. So it's not that much. It's more of just the time loss of having to run back and take the heal and then run all the way back. And after that, you'll still need to Trank Cloud and put Fury on Kate and do the rest of your menu. So that is an option for you if you want to do that. But as for the fight itself, this is probably the most mechanically difficult fight in the run, at least in my opinion. Red Dragon kind of comes close, and then Schizo later on is kind of complex, but this is definitely the fastest, and it can throw you a lot of curveballs, and some runs you will just die. There is definitely the element of runs just dying here because of some nasty critical attacks and things like that, but obviously you should go into it trying to optimize your chances into getting through this fight alive and then as fast as possible. So as you start the fight, before we get into it, we're going to be starting the fight off with Big Guard. Now, when you get to this point in the run, I have enemy skill on Aerith and Kate. Now, Aerith is going to die pretty early on in the fight, but if she doesn't die first turn, I like to use Big Guard on with Aerith. and have Kate either heal or throw a Molotov, and then have Cloud do his thing on the first turn. And if Aerith doesn't die, then I'll just throw a grenade on her as the fight goes through. So that's kind of my strategy going into it. But yeah, start the fight off. Okay, so I've had to go back because that last fight didn't go too well, but I'll probably just I'll try and show one fight through the entire process as best I can. But I do have a lot of stuff to explain to try and get through this fight. However, before we start this fight, there's going to be two main phases to this fight. The first phase is before getting Demon's Gate into a constant cycle of using Demon Rush, which is his big like rush at you attack where it hits the entire party. Now, there is a manipulation with his HP that you can constantly get into the cycle, but you won't start out in that fight. The fight will start in one of two ways. Either he will use Demon Rush as his first turn, which there is a 1 in 4 chance, I believe, that's how the fight will start. In which case you got a pretty comfortable start because you don't have to worry about damage. You can get big guard off straight away and then get into your damage rolls. Or you will get one of his normal attacks like Rock Drop or Icicle Drop or Petrify. Now, Petrify is unfortunately a really, really bad result, and in most cases it usually means that you're going to die in the fight. But it's not just an immediate write-off. There, you can survive it, you just need to get lucky. But yeah, so going into the first phase, you need to push out 2,500 damage as quickly as you can. Now, the way Demon's Gate, his battle AI works, is that every time you do 2,500 damage to him, his next attack will be preparing for Demon Rush and then using Demon Rush on the turn after that. And this happens every 2,500 HP. So after you've dropped him below 7,500, dropped him below 5,000, dropped him below 2,500. And if you keep him in that constant cycle, the fight is pretty safe and it's also fast. However, getting him into that phase is the riskiest part of the fight because he's got access to Rock Drop, which is a very high damage attack. Icicle Drop is not really worth worrying about. It's fine. It does hit all party members, but it's the least damage out of his attack arsenal. Or Petrify, in which case you just... yeah, that's horrible. But your main priority to start off with is to get Big Guard off. Now you can go with Aerith, try and get Aerith to cast Big Guard to preserve Kate's MP throughout the fight. You're going to need at least 2 Big Guard casts. You shouldn't need 3. I don't really know of a situation in which you would need 3 casts of Big Guard unless you're not getting ATB weighting properly or things have just gone really, really wrong in the fight. But yeah, 2 should do it. But if Aerith does get the Big Guard off, then you're looking a lot more comfortable, and Kate can do a more minor move like killing Aerith off with a grenade or healing on the first turn instead of having to cast Big Guard. It's just a little more comfortable. So that's basically the first turn of this fight dictates the flow of how this fight is going to go quite a bit. So we'll go into the fight and take a look and see how it goes. Okay, so we actually get pretty much the best result possible. A Rock Drop, which is a miss, so no damage. So in this case, I'm pretty much inclined to use an attack with Cloud and a grenade with Kate to kill Aerith off after she casts the Big Guard. And then I'll try and ATB weight Cloud. And I'll go into how I ATB weight. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to be able to get this off, depending on how ATB works, but I'll give it a shot. So yeah, it'll be an attack with Cloud, or I could Molotov in this scenario as well. Molotov would actually probably be better, but if you want to preserve them, you can. With everyone alive, Cloud will only do 200 damage instead of 400-ish. So that is a downside, but I mean, it's 100 damage. It's up to you if you want to use that Molotov or not, really. So... yeah, he already filled up partially his ATB, so I'm not going to get this ATB weight off, unfortunately. I was too slow. You do have to be pretty quick, make your decision pretty fast, so I'm not going to get it off, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. Now, when Demon's Gate does get his turn off, it's important to release the ATB so Kate can recharge his ATB. Otherwise, you're not able to do the ATB weight, which is what I'll get more into the next turn. Now, after Kate's ATB is completely filled, schedule an attack with Cloud, and then hold ATB with Kate in the item menu. Okay, so we've got Cloud's Cloud's attack through. Now, in this scenario, Kate has his limit. As tempted as you are to use it now, there is actually a better way to do this where you can push out even more damage in one cycle of turns. I'm going to throw a Molotov with Kate. You can either throw a Molotov or a high potion. It just depends if someone needs healing. Healing takes priority. But everyone's HP is pretty good here. So a Molotov is fine. I'm then going to go into the item menu with Cloud to hold the ATB. It's a little bit easier than trying to hold it by timing your press on attack. And I'll hold ATB, and then during the animation of the item, not the throw, but the actual, this will be during the flames of Molotov going off. When that's playing, ATB will not progress even if I exit the menu, so I can exit item menu and then go back to attack and then hold ATB through the attack command instead, and then I'll take it from there. Right, so throw the Molotov, hold up circle after that to get into the item menu for Cloud. And then during those flames, exit and go back to attack. Now, this is where you can abuse the limit system a bit with Kate's limit. Now, I'm going to schedule Cloud's attack, and yeah, I'll schedule Cloud's attack, and Kate's limit is going to refill. And I'm going to queue up dice as Cloud is going through his attack animation. And I don't know why this works, but it does. And it's pretty consistent. So I'll queue up dice during Cloud's attack animation, and that'll queue up Kate. And because it's a limit, that will take precedence over Demon's Gate's turn, and I'll get the dice cast off immediately, despite the fact that he's going to have a full ATB. And even with that, you might be, if you know ATB weighting, you might be concerned that the ATB will go back into active, and you're going to start bleeding ATB for your big guard, your protecting, your barrier and magic barrier meters, because you need to keep a good eye on them. But you're actually not going to at all, because for some reason the ATB stays in weight when you do this. Yeah, I don't know why this is, but I'll demonstrate it here. So attack, and then cast a dice, and ATB is still in weight. I'm not losing any ATB as a result of this, and both Cloud and Kate will refill after this. 300, nice. Alright. I'll be a little bit safe. 341 is kind of like on the edge of whether or not you should heal Cloud. So I'll play it safe and I'll heal. Got that attack off. High potion. Now, in turns where you don't get Kate's ATB, just hold ATB for a couple of seconds and then release it to recharge Cloud. Okay, Now, we've entered the second phase of the fight where Demon's Gate we start going through the whole Demon Rush cycle, because every time he queues up Demon's Rush, he basically doesn't do anything for the first turn. It's just the second turn where he attacks you. So we constantly stay in this cycle of Cloud doing 400 attack twice per turn, 800, and then Kate will usually throw a Molotov on the first turn and then a high potion on the second turn. So you're looking at about 800, 1100. You're looking at about 2000 damage before throwing a dice roll in on top of that. So you should be able to keep him, unless you're really unlucky with damage rolls, you'll be able to keep him in this constant state of going into Demon Rush, doing the Demon Rush, and then queuing up the next Demon Rush because you've done enough damage. So I'll go through the rest of that fight. Hopefully I don't get an unlucky crit and someone dies so I can show off the full fight. And take note that counter attack is also equipped on Cloud here, so that can also contribute to your damage. And then use dice just in the same way as we did before. Alright, so I've had some pretty crappy dice rolls in this fight, but we still had enough damage. So I think the first one was 500, this was 300, and I'm still just keeping it the damage up high enough in order to get Demon's Gate going through these cycles. So it is possible to not do enough damage, and you do need to be prepared for him to start throwing out rock drops again, but that should only happen once in a fight, as long as you don't die as a result from that. Now, going to this fight, after the Demon Rush, your big guard, the barriers, will probably have run out. If they haven't run out, they'll be really close to running out. So you need to queue up a big guard, and the best time to do this is, well, on this next turn. So, of course, you're holding A to B with Kate as Cloud does his first attack. That's when you need to throw in a big guard cast to make sure that your barrier will be up for his next Demon Rush. Oh dear. Okay, so this is actually kind of one of those fringe situations where you get a miss, and getting a miss on Kate is actually pretty bad because it means you don't get a dice roll out of it. And if you're not pushing it, if you haven't pushed out good damage from previous dice rolls, you can actually get into trouble and get stuck into his back into his normal phase instead of prepping for Demon Rush, which is going to happen. Because the dice rolls in this fight have been pretty crap. So it's basically, you treat the fight the same, but you need to be safer with your HP values, because as you go through, as you progressively decrease Demon's Gate's HP, and these HP thresholds are the same as the Demon Rush thresholds. It's 7,500 HP, 5,000 HP, 2,500 HP. The odds of Demon's Gate using Rock Drop twice per turn increases. I think it starts out as a 1 in 8 chance. No, sorry, it's a 1 in 4 chance. And it eventually goes to 1 in 3, 1 in 2, I think. I'll have to double check these. I'll edit in the proper values, and I'll double check the AI script for it. But yeah, basically that's kind of the downside. If you don't do enough damage, you start getting into situations where things can get nasty. So It's still kind of business as usual with the ATB waiting, but be more careful with your HP values. Don't be concerned. Like if someone's down at around 400 HP, it's completely fine to heal them up because there's a good chance that they're going to get attacked twice. Also, Cloud has his limit in this situation. Ideally, you want to finish this fight with Cloud either having his limit full or very close to it. That's the best case scenario because you need to have your limits for... well, you don't need to have limit for Genova Life. There is an alternative Dazer strat, but I very much prefer having Cross Slash. It's a lot more comfortable. And in a lot of fights, it's easy to get Cloud pretty close or to a full ATB. If Cloud's limit is full and you're almost at the end of the fight, like if you think Demon's Gate has like 2000 HP or less, you can just not attack and have Cloud throw Molotovs instead to preserve that limit. That's a completely viable strategy. And unfortunately, if this was like, if Demon's Gate HP was like in his final phase, I would do that, but in this phase, I'm not going to. It's a bit too risky. I'm going to have to clear his limit. And then just have to recharge it later if this was a run on the death sentence fight, which kind of sucks, but yeah, you're not going to get the best case every time, of course. Alright, so heal Cloud. Now, Braver and Cross Slash. Cross Slash does slightly more damage, but it's a longer animation, so it's up to you as to whether or not you want to do one or the other. Most runners actually use Braver, I believe, because the difference in damage is just very small. So I typically take Braver instead of Cross Slash. And then it's back to business as usual. And get lucky, it's only one rock drop. And we're back into the Demon Rush phase, which is good. And not going to worry about healing. He's almost dead here. Obviously, I've got the benefit of actually seeing his HP. That is how a typical fight will look like, except minus the really bad dust damage rolls. That's a bit unfortunate, but yeah, once you got that, you're looking in pretty good shape. I'll try and get recordings of a couple more fringe scenarios. But that is the core of the fight. So this is just a quick example of what it looks like when Cloud gets a limit towards the last phase, where you can just ignore using a limit and throw Molotovs instead. This way you get to preserve the limit, where here it was quite convenient, you only had to wait one turn, but you can extend this beyond one turn if you want to. It's, as a general rule of thumb, if you've seen the last Demon Rush, then you can probably get by with just throwing Molotovs here. So in this fight, I wanted to show off what happens if you see a Petrify. In this fight, you actually get a first turn on Cloud, which is about the worst case scenario that you can get. Petrify, obviously if it happens on Aerith, that's just basically an empty turn. There isn't really any penalty to that. On Kate this is pretty bad, but having it on Cloud is the worst case scenario. because he is the primary damage dealer outside of, except for maybe Kate's dice if you get really good rolls. So the general strategy after you see Petrify is keep going with the fight as you normally would. Try and get Demon's Gate into the cycle of going in and out of Demon Rush, but as Cloud's timer starts approaching 0, when you see it around 5, his counter at 5 or less, on the next turn is when you're going to need to use Bahamut. This is the big reason why I decided to take Bahamut into this fight, is because if you see a Petrify, you might be able to say it, and Bahamut has the benefit of ignoring magic defense, so he will do full damage against him for around about 14 to 1500 damage. So you want to get this off before Cloud's timer expires, and once you've done that, you go into a 1v1. Now, I don't think it's really worth trying to Phoenix down someone in this fight, because it's just going to be a case of you Phoenix down and Demon's Gate is going to kill one of your party members, and then you just get stuck in this endless loop. So either use a dice with Kate if you have it. In this case I did have it right after the Demon's Gate, so I used that, and I used the A to B weight system and limit priority to get it, and I got lucky. I got a 2400 damage roll to take a good chunk out of his HP. And then after Cloud's timer expires, use a big guard with Kate so he can survive the next attack, as his barriers have run out, and then his Demon Rush goes off again, and use a dice. And in this scenario, I did get really lucky with the damage rolls, because I got another 1000 roll. I only needed a 600 roll. I didn't have the cheat engine formula up, but I went through the vault and counted damage, and I needed a 600 roll to kill here, and managed to get the 1000 roll. So yeah, lol. But this is a general idea of what it looks like. You can still use Bahamut, of course, if Kate gets Petrify instead of Cloud, for that extra solid damage boost. Other than that though, that's basically what the fight is going to look like if you manage to survive. Of course, if you get bad damage rolls with dice, then the odds of you surviving the fight are looking pretty low. Well, thank you for watching the video. Hope this helps with you learning the run, or if you're just trying to improve carry armor. Other than that, best of luck.